have a good faith discussion about why you support him with me, that would be awesome. Just go ahead and drop a MAGA accompanied by your age down below in that comment section. We'll get you pulled up here. So let's go ahead and do that right now, everybody. We're not going to skip a single beat. We're going to hop into the first discussion, but please, everybody, follow the rules. If you are in that queue, make sure that means that you're an American adult that supports Trump. What is going on? Dizana, do you support Trump?
Yeah, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what time is it?
It's 2:04 p.m. where I am.
Really? What state are you in?
Oregon.
Oregon. What's two cities in Oregon?
Well, we got Salem and Portland.
Okay. All right, man. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, I do, but just for the record, I'm not like a full-on MAGA fanatic, but I do support him.
Okay, yeah, so tell us why you support the man, the myth, the failure, Donald Trump. And honestly, I think supporting him makes you a MAGA fanatic, but that's just me. But take it away. Tell us why you support him.
Yeah, so basically, I looked at the two candidates, like Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and I really wasn't impressed by Kamala Harris. Like, she was so uncharming, so weird. I mean, with the accent changes, with not being able to answer the question, how are you going to change the economy? And also, Trump had a really good argument in the debate. Like, she said she was going to fix the economy. He said, why don't you fix it right now? So that kind of made me like, I didn't vote because, I don't know, I just kind of said I'm abstaining from voting, but I still
So let me get
Trump.
this straight. The rapist is more charming than the prosecutor.
Well, let's not get into the politician. He's a racist. I don't know whether
You don't want to get into the character of the politicians? Your first point was about the character of the politicians when you said you didn't support her because she was uncharming.
If we would say how many politicians are actually rapists, we would just talk about that and couldn't get anywhere near.
Well, we definitely wouldn't be calling Kamala Harris one, so that made her the lesser out of the two.
I don't know whether Kamala Harris is a rapist, but I don't know whether Trump's a rapist. I haven't seen him rape. I haven't seen him being convicted of rape. Have you?
Yeah, he's been held civilly liable for it by unanimous jury of none.
When was that?
When was that? That was in 2023. 2022.
But by charming rape, I don't mean like charming in the sense of, yeah, I don't, by charming I mean, how do I say, appealing to get voted. I mean, being asked the questions.
Appealing. Okay. Well, I don't think he was that appealing either. I mean, he appealed to a lot of people because of the outrageously false claims that he made. He was so incredibly, totally fine with just lying to the American people to get their support. I've never in a million years seen anybody be like him. I mean, he seriously ran on, quote unquote, ending inflation. Obviously, he wasn't ever going to end inflation. He just said whatever it would take to get the average American without any, education or knowledge on on American politics to just throw him their support, right? And then the second claim that he made was about her changing accents. So, I mean, you don't know what code switching
I've seen it. I've seen the videos with the Jamaican accent, with the Latina accent. I've seen it. Okay. It's uncharming.
I haven't seen any Latina accent. I don't think that's true. Now, as it relates to code switching to AAVE, that is something she has done, but that's not wrong, and I can explain to you why. But I just want to clarify that you genuinely think that Kamala Harris code switching is seriously worse than Donald Trump saying that Biden was executed in 2020 then replaced with a robotic clone, is seriously worse than him being a 34-count convicted felon or openly boasting about perving on naked underage changing women.
What was your last sentence? Can you hear me right there?
Or you think that her code switching was seriously worse than like Donald Trump boasting about openly perving on naked underage girls changing in their changing in a women's only space? It's like, like the moment that we start to have a conversation about the character of these people, I mean, even though what you're saying is absurd and false and there's nothing wrong with code switching, even if I grant you your position, it's just still insane to say that code switching is worse than being a P3DO, being a rapist, or like sending America back into war in the Middle East. I think that's just like a completely outrageous.
Look, I don't support the war in the Middle East. Just for the record, I don't do that. But I still, when I looked at both of them, I still kind of, thinking that somebody like that, I do not think Trump is like a saint. That's why I think. How bad of...
Yeah, exactly, but that's just what you chop it up to. So when I point out any of these just abominably, abhorrently bad things that Donald Trump has done, your response is to say, well, you don't expect him to be a saint. But then when you point out that Kamala Harris has code switched, apparently that makes her worse than the fascists.
No,
and
but
she's just so
being
unlikable.
ridiculous.
It's
not,
insane.
Not to be taken seriously.
But you could take him seriously, even though he's boasted about perving on underage girls. So okay, why can you take Donald Trump seriously, even though he's an adjudicated rapist that is boasted about perving on underage girls? But then Kamala Harris code switching is enough for you to say that you can't take her seriously.
He's not to be taken seriously as a person, but as a politician.
Answer my question.
Which would be?
If code switching is your red line against Kamala Harris, that means you can't take her seriously. You can never vote or support her. Why is it being an adjudicated rapist or like boasting about perving on naked underage girls not a red line against Trump?
Because we don't have any better ones.
Yes, Kamala Harris. I'll take code switching over grape 10 days out of the week. Keep in mind, there's only 7 days in a week.
The code switching was not the overkill for me. It was just one example.
Okay, so what was the overkill?
The fact that she was in office as a vice president for 4 years. Now she's talking about how she will change the economy. Why doesn't she change it right now? That was like the overkill for me. She couldn't do it in 4 years, but she said, "Give me another 4 years and I'll do it." Come on.
So this is a paradox. Do you want me to explain the paradox to you?
Sure. Go ahead.
So you're asking the question, well, why didn't she already implement the policy that she ran on, right?
Yeah.
Because if she did, then she would have had to run on new policy. The point of a presidential campaign is to run on things that America needs, right? That America doesn't have yet, and that if America did have it, America would be better. So I don't know how to explain this to you. So every president is always going to run on things that they haven't already done, because that is the point of a presidential campaign. The point of a presidential campaign and a presidential platform is to run on things that you do want to implement and that you do want to change in America, all right? Not things that you already have done. Think about it. If she had already done some of the things that she ran on in the election cycle, what would she do? Would she still run on those things? Would she say, "Vote for me to be your president"? I'm not going to do anything because I already did what I intended to do, and that's all I needed to do for America. Or if she did do something that she ran on, would she just simply replaced it with something else that she hasn't done yet?
The point that I'm trying to make is she did not. How do I say it? She didn't. Wait! Just give me a second.
You made your point clear. Like for instance, one of the things that she ran on was a $25,000 subsidy for first-time homebuyers buying newly developed properties. Well, if she already implemented the $25,000 subsidy in the last 4 years, she wouldn't have ran on the $25,000 subsidy, and she would have replaced it with something else. But then you'd still be asking the same question. Well, why hasn't she already implemented this other thing that she's now running on, replacing the $25,000 subsidy because she already implemented in the last 4 years? Well, if she did already implement that new thing, then she would have changed out that new thing for a new thing, right? Every single time we see somebody running for the presidency, they're always going to be running on things that they want to do in America in the next 4 years. They're never going to be running on things that they've already done for America in the 4 years before.
But what did she want to do? What was like her? I didn't completely get her campaign. I was kind of, getting. But could you explain it for me, like a little, like oversimplified, so I can get it completely?
Yeah, sure. She wanted to make the life of 100 million American workers and the low and the middle class significantly better by reducing income inequity, by cutting their taxes, and by increasing social safety nets. She also wanted to make housing more attainable by building 2 to 4 million new houses in the next 48 years, by incentivizing a larger amount of supply through increased artificial demand through the $25,000 subsidy for new houses. She also wanted to fight for every single American woman and girl by codifying federal protections for access to abortion for every single American woman and girl. And I mean, that's just like, looking at the surface, man.
That's the thing. I'm against abortion. I'm pro-life.
Why?
Well, because I don't believe a fetus should be killed.
Why?
And sacrificed in order. Well, why would a human being be killed?
Why would a human being be killed? You're the one that has to give me an argument that it's wrong. Okay, because I don't have to give you an argument that it's morally permissible. The argument will follow.
Okay. Well,
basically, let me finish speaking.
Well, do you think killing people is wrong? Do you think killing people is wrong?
By people, do you just mean humans that are alive?
Yes, humans.
Yeah, no,
humans.
I don't think it's always wrong to kill a human. No. Come on, self-defense. Come on, brain dead patients pulling the plug on
You
them.
think killing an innocent baby is self-defense?
No, I'm just giving you an example of a time where it's not wrong to kill a human.
Well, how does
Would you
it
say that the
justify
driving
to
principle
kill
behind
an
your
innocent
abortion
being
view?
that hasn't done anything to you?
Yeah, for sure, because I can't identify any trait of the fetus that we should find morally valuable.
So you believe, so you believe the more, how do I say, the more self-sustainable it is, the more rights it has?
No, I never said that. I just said I can't identify anything about a fetus that I should find morally valuable. Why are you misinterpreting my claim?
Well, I can find something that is morally valuable.
Okay, point it out.
Well, it's the fact that it's a human being.
Okay. Well, I don't think that the fact that you're a human being on its own makes you morally valuable enough to be
I do.
given the right to life. Oh, you do?
I do.
Okay,
I
so
do, yeah.
that means that you think it's murder when doctors pull the plugs on brain dead patients in the hospital. And
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. And would you say that genocide can be defined as the intentional systemic murder of a group of people based upon a common characteristic?
Sure, yeah.
And because you think it's a murder to pull the plug on a brain dead patient, that means that you think American hospitals are doing a state-funded and chartered genocide by intentionally, systemically murdering brain dead patients based upon that common characteristic.
No, because
Okay,
because
so
it's not- it's not- it's not
either
the-
this
it's
isn't
not the
intentionally
intent-
happening
no,
in
wait.
every American
Let me-
hospital every day, or you don't think
No,
it's murder.
Would you please let me explain myself? The thing is, genocide is not just a let's kill a group of people. It's the intention of removing a race, removing a group of like brain dead people are not a particular. I would say group of people. That's just an unfortunate number of people who.
Well, I think that genocide can be defined based upon the intentional murder, systemic murder of a group of people, not based upon race or ethnicity, but
It
just
can,
based
it
upon.
can, it can.
Okay,
But
you're
that
interrupting
doesn't-
me. Stop it.
But you can interrupt me.
Stop interrupting me. Are you going to calm down and let me finish what I'm saying, or are you too scared to let me speak?
Go ahead, brother.
Good boy. So anyways, we'll go back to the definition of genocide. I don't think that genocide is always the intentional systemic murder of
do.
ethnicity or... You just interrupted me again.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
Is the crash out starting?
What crash out? I'm not crashing out. You're crashing
I think
out.
that this is the start of a crash out when you can't let me speak for
There
more
you go.
than 4
You're
words.
losing the argument, and now stop interrupting me.
Wait, you think I'm losing the argument because
On
you're
abortion,
interrupting
yes.
me midway
On
through?
Trump, you did beat me. But
So
on
I just want to
abortion,
clarify. You think I'm losing the argument
on
because
abortion,
you're interrupting me.
yes. All right, go ahead, boy.
So do you typically interrupt people when you're beating them in a debate? Because I
No.
think that's something that individuals usually
No, when
do
you're
when they're
worth
losing.
listening to, when they're worth listening to, I don't interrupt them.
Oh, okay. So you're just saying that I'm not worth listening to because you know I'm right and you know you can't refute what I'm saying. Particularly the fact that no, genocide is not exclusive to the intentional systemic murder of a group of individuals predicated on only race or ethnicity. My evidence for this would be the fact that, well, if Donald Trump rounded up every single person with green eyes in America and systemically murdered them, can we agree that would be a genocide? Or if Donald
Yes.
Trump rounded up everybody that is blind in America and systemically
Yes.
murdered them?
Yes, we
Okay,
can.
okay. Well, is blindness a race? Is blindness an ethnicity?
Okay, yeah, I admit you did get me there. I admit that.
Right. So it's just going to be the intentional systemic murder of a group of people based upon a common characteristics. Like
Yes,
a common
yes,
characteristic can be anything, not necessarily race or genocide. So now
Yeah,
that we can
yeah.
agree
Yeah,
that
sure.
is the way that we should use the term genocide, because you think it's murder to pull the plug on brain dead patients, and
Yes,
because hospitals
actually,
do
yeah.
this with intention systemically across this country, then you do think that there's a genocide of brain dead people in America today.
Actually, yeah, I do.
Great. Is it okay to use violence to stop genocides?
I would say yes.
Okay, so you would be okay with you storming your local hospital, killing the medical health practitioners, and people doing this all across America to use violence to stop the genocide of brain dead patients?
No, I'm saying the pulling the plug should be stopped, and the doctors that do that should be thrown in jail.
So I just want to clarify there. Why are you not okay to why do you think it's not okay to use violence to stop pulling the plug on brain dead patients? Because you agreed that's murder and you agreed it's a genocide, and then you agreed that it's okay to use violence to stop genocides. Seemingly, you have a contradiction here.
Why? Explain why.
Because you agreed it's a genocide, and then you agreed
Yeah.
that it's okay to use violence to stop genocides, but then you said that it's not okay to use violence to stop pulling the plug on brain dead patients, even though you think that's a genocide.
Well, by violence, I don't necessarily.
Even though you think that's a genocide.
Well, by violence, I don't necessarily mean irrational. Do you think it's okay to go in with an AK full auto in a prison and shoot everybody dead?
Why would that be okay?
Well, do you think that violence is, how do I say, do you think that violence can be used to stop rape in prison?
I'm confused. Confused on what the points you're making here are. Because remember, we're just trying to test the claim. Is it okay to use violence to stop genocide? And yeah, I think it is. Yeah, like for instance, right? I think it'd be okay to like go and unalive the Yahtzees that were running like the different concentration camps. Absolutely.
Yeah, me too. But I don't.
So do you think it'd be okay to round up and unalive the medical health practitioners that are pulling the plugs on brain dead patients in America?
Well, not unalive, but put in jail. Yes. No,
so then you wouldn't be okay with like unaliving like Hitler and his people either, then?
Yes, I would be, because that's much. How do I say it? Much more radical. Hitler. I can't. I don't compare doctors. I don't compare doctors who pull the plug on people with Hitler.
I actually think here that there would be a pretty good comparison between the doctors that pull the plugs on brain dead patients and the Nazis that ran the concentration camps. Because under your view, both the Nazis that ran the concentration camps and the doctors that are pulling plugs on brain dead patients are aiding and abetting in the intentional murder of a group of people based upon some common characteristic that does amount to a genocide.
Yes, but I do not believe that every individual that commits genocide should be treated the same way, because there are multiple degrees of how brutal a genocide is. I think there were worse people than Hitler. I think there are some people that committed genocide that should have been treated worse than what Hitler deserved.
So can you give me the difference between a Nazi foot soldier that ran a concentration camp and a doctor that runs like a brain dead unit in a hospital?
Well, a Nazi soldier kills a Jew out of complete pride and complete hate to that person. So which means it's uttering complete hate. But a doctor pulling the plug on somebody, it's not. He doesn't hate
I need to correct you on your history. Towards the end of the Holocaust, that the Nazi foot soldiers just simply didn't look at Jewish individuals like they were human. Right? They felt completely indifferent to Jewish individuals and thought that Jewish individuals were basically equivalent to like dirt on the ground, basically granting them no moral value. Right? And that's why they were okay with genociding them, because they thought that a better world could be reaped given that. And the comparison here would be to a doctor that would pull the plug on a brain dead patient. But you're saying that the doctors pulling the plugs on the brain dead patients so do you think that like a doctor that has pulled a plug on like 20 brain dead patients is a serial killer?
I don't know.
Wait, what? Wait. If I kill 20 people on the street, am I a serial killer?
What? Didn't hear you there?
If I just kill 20 random people on the street, am I a serial killer?
Yes.
So then why wouldn't a doctor be a serial killer for pulling the plug on 20 brain dead patients? Are you saying that brain dead patients don't have the right to life, meaning that it is not murder to kill them? Because under your view, you said it's murder to kill brain dead patients. If a doctor kills 20 of them, that guy's a serial killer. No way around that.
About abortion, you're putting me into a corner and talking about brain dead patients.
Right, because you're supposed to concede that it isn't murder to pull the plug on a brain dead patient, meaning that it does not, meaning that merely being human and alive does not grant you the right to life.
I do not agree.
Meaning that your position on abortion is unjust.
No, my position on brain dead people is unjust, but not on fetuses. I don't think fetuses are brain dead individuals. Brain dead individuals are people who are never going to be conscious and human again, but fetuses are.
Okay, well then you're basically saying that the right to life is not derivative of merely being a human that's alive, but rather derivative of something else. So what about the fetus is morally valuable that makes abortion morally impermissible?
The fact that it's going to be a conscious human being.
The fact that it's going to be a conscious human being in the future.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're basically saying that consciousness makes you morally valuable, and if you have
no, it doesn't. No.
So then why would being conscious in the future make you morally valuable?
Well, in comparison to a brain dead person is never going to, how do I say it, to be able to consent to anything. It's never going to be able to live the way a fetus is going to be living.
In comparison to, so then why is the fetus morally valuable? Because once again, you said that the fetus is morally valuable, because it will have consciousness in its future. But then you said that having consciousness does not make you morally valuable. So like imagine this. Imagine that I said that I'm really happy today because tomorrow I'm going to see the Mona Lisa and that's going to make me ecstatic. But then when I actually see the Mona Lisa, I'm going to be very sad. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. So I don't think it makes much sense when you say that a fetus... No, don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. It doesn't make any sense when you say that a fetus is morally valuable because it will have consciousness in the future. But consciousness isn't morally valuable. So then why would consciousness in the future be morally valuable?
Okay, wait. Can I just say something before I state my argument? Just a quick thing.
I mean, I would prefer that you'd respond to that.
No, I just wanted to apologize for being a dick.
Thanks for your apology. Now please respond to that.
Okay. So let me put an argument up with a question.
No, I don't want an argument and a question. I want you to respond to my critique of your position. Once again, your position was to say that a fetus is morally valuable because it will have consciousness in the future, but then consciousness is not morally valuable. Please respond to that.
Well, by consciousness, I mean also it's going to be a human being just as we are. Brain-dead person is never going to be just as a human.
So what is just as we are mean? Are you saying like conscious?
How do I say it? Also conscious, living? It's going to be
conscious, living.
Yeah, but also, what would you think is morally valuable in a human?
Okay, you're not going to get around the question that I asked you by asking me a question.
Well, I'm trying to get why. Well, I'm trying to argue on your standard. Why do you think a human being is more valuable? Why a human being is valuable? Because you say not all human beings are more valuable.
I'll repeat my response. You're not going to deflect from me pointing out that your pro-life stance makes no sense and is completely incoherent by asking me what my stance is. I'm not going to allow you to make that deflection.
Why not? Well, I'm trying to...
Why not? Because deflections create very unproductive dialogue.
I'm trying to understand why you think it's not morally valuable. Why you think...
Yeah, that, I mean, if you want to concede that your pro-life position is intelligible and completely logically incoherent, I'll give you my position and we can move on. But first you have to concede. Because I was able to... Okay, if you're not going to concede...
I'm trying to understand you and then explain to you why...
Sir, well, if you're not going to concede your position, this means that you would have a response for my critiques of your position, particularly the response that you said that a fetus is morally valuable because it will be conscious in the future, yet consciousness on its own is not morally valuable. So either concede that your position is intelligible or refute my argument against your position. You have two options.
Well, also, I would add that not only consciousness makes you morally valuable, but also a fetus is God's creation. Just like I am a Christian. I didn't mention that earlier, so I believe that we are God's creation just as other humans are, and fetuses too.
So abortion should be illegal because it violates the Ten Commandments?
No, it's a reason. It's the reason why I am pro-life.
Okay, so the reason you're pro-life is because abortion should be illegal because it's a sin that violates the Ten Commandments, right?
Well, we were Christians. We don't necessarily just like by the Ten Commandments. We have more things to live on than Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments.
So moral laws are consequential of the Ten Commandments.
It is
within the Ten Commandments, you embody all sins. Fun fact.
What?
Fun fact. But I'll rephrase nonetheless because you don't like that wording. So you're personally pro-life. You personally think that abortion should be illegal because it's a sin that transgresses upon God's moral law. Correct?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Okay. And what is your position rooted in Christianity? I'm confused.
Well, because it kills a human being.
So then you're completely throwing the idea that the human being is valuable because it's God's creation out. Okay, well, the reason it's wrong to kill God's creation is because that's a transgression upon God's moral law, right? So in other words, you think that abortion should be illegal because it's a sin that transgresses upon God's moral law?
Christianity doesn't work on it's against the law, so that is why it's bad.
God's moral law absolutely does. Because, if you just want to say that it's always wrong to kill a human being regardless of what God's moral law says or not, well, then God's not all good because he's commanded the slaughter of human beings, such as the Amalekites in Samuel 14:3.
you don't understand Christian.
You don't understand Christian theology, because what a Christian would say there is, well, because God commanded it, the killing and slaughter of those human beings, therefore did not transgress upon his law, therefore it wasn't wrong. But if you're saying that it's not wrong because it's a transgression upon God's moral law, but rather wrong because it's literally killing a human being, regardless of what God's moral law says or not,
No, it's not.
then God's a bad God that's not all good, because he's literally commanded the killing and slaughter of human beings, regardless if it transgresses upon his law or not.
You didn't understand my point. It's not. I'm not saying it's bad because it transgresses God's law,
That
but
is
because
what-
we are because we are undoing a creation of God. That's not necessarily because it just
And why
is
is
God's
undoing
law.
a creation of God wrong?
Well, because we're not God to decide who gets to die and who doesn't.
Okay, and why is it wrong to decide who gets to live and who doesn't?
Because we're not God.
Okay, and
Only
why
God
is it
can
why is it
decide.
wrong to do that when you're not God?
Because we're not God.
So your argument is circular then. You're saying it's
not
wrong to do
circular.
it when we're not
No,
God
my
because we're
argument
not
is
God.
only
That's
God
a
can
circular
decide-
position.
Only God decides who dies and who doesn't, and nobody else.
Okay, so then why is that the case?
Because He is the one who creates and destroys.
Okay, so then why is it wrong for you to create and destroy?
Because I'm not God.
Okay, and then why is it wrong to do it if you're not God?
Because we are not morally perfect.
Because we're not morally perfect. Okay,
Yeah, we're not
well then
mor-
how
we're
do you
not
know that
morally
action is morally imperfect?
What, can you repeat that again?
So how do you know that action is morally imperfect?
How do you know that action is morally imperfect?
The easy answer is that it would transgress upon God's moral law, but for whatever reason, you don't want to believe that.
I don't like the word law. That's why I don't like the word law.
Okay, well then you don't like the Bible, because
No, I would rather say it transgresses God's teaching or God's moral, not law. We're not based on law.
God's moral teaching is God's moral law.
Not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily.
No, not necessarily.
Yes. What? What?
No.
Okay, give me an example of a moral teaching of God that is not a part of God's moral law.
Giving money to the poor. God never gave a law to say give money to the poor. If you don't give money to the poor, you're going to hell.
So the moral law would be that if you provide to those that are more needy than yourself, then you will be given great glory in the kingdom of heaven, as echoed in Psalms 32.
I wouldn't say that.
That's what the Bible says. So you disagree
No,
with the
that's-
Bible.
It's cited as a virtue, not a law.
Virtues are a part of God's moral law. Having good virtue is of God's moral law.
No, having virtue is not a part of it, but a result from.
Okay, he doesn't even know what the fuck he's talking about. We're gonna move on to the next guest. Dude, please don't try to come up here and have debates with me when you just don't know shit about your own Bible. You know, I spend way too much goddamn time doing research on Christian theology just to be discredited by children that don't even know their own Bible.